Hello and welcome again. Last time, we covered how those who lurk in the shadows to exert their malign influence over society by employing the principles of the Praetorian Guards of old are still dictating and manipulating the behaviours of entire societies. The good news is that there is an ever-growing number of individuals who are becoming aware of the forces that are really playing out in today's world. They are not the forces of political parties labelled left and right, or fringe spin-off parties which sometimes rise from the bonfire of political controversy only to sparkle briefly before vanishing into the darkness of the night. Those are all aligned on one side of the spectrum, which we term statism, those who believe in the falsely asserted authority of an alleged elite which opposes those who understand that human society can only function effectively under conditions of individual freedom and accountability. No, the true struggle is between these two ideologies. The current success of the statists derives from the toxic venom injected into modern polity by the declaration of the 1688-89 Bill of Rights, which asserts in an act of ultimate betrayal that the Parliament effectively constitutes the government, and that it may not only make any legislation, which it falsely calls laws, it likes, but that its members are immune from personal prosecution for whatever harm those edicts or acts may inflict on innocent members of society. This is an utter repudiation of the principles enshrined in perpetuity of Magna Carta 1215, which is the treaty between the monarch and the people. Despite the reticence of some to call a spade, this assertion and the attempt to enforce it by the use of militarized constabularies falls only under one definition: high treason. What is to be done about this? There exists a recently composed letter which has been distributed to as many of the members of the Australian judiciary as possible. It expresses brilliantly the principles involved in the way these members of society act, and the author, Fitzroy Sterling, has graciously permitted me to quote it in full. Following that, I will suggest some courses of action that individuals can pursue as we attempt to do our duty in restoring a lawful system of justice, namely one run by the principles of trial by jury. The letter is entitled, "Natural Law Ensures that All Violations of Truth Return to Their Source." Quote, "The structure you serve is populated by conscious men and women endowed with holistic intelligence and an instinctive understanding of the difference between behaviour that nourishes life and behaviour that destroys it. Yet you operate as willful functionaries who devour trust in pursuit of domination by force. The courthouses you occupy are not your own, but public institutions captured to harvest and plunder the innocent with impunity. You speak of legislation as if it were law, immutable and sacred, when in truth, legislation is malleable and manipulated to serve a criminal architecture. The moment there is a hint of obfuscation or falsehood, truth itself is desecrated. This system protects property over people, but whose property exactly? These are accumulated holdings derived through theft, deception, and historic acts of oppression. The property you protect is not neutral or benign. It is the stolen wealth and resources controlled by a select few who profit from systemic exploitation. This system does not merely favour appearance over accountability, it favours deceit. It does not support those with true power, understood as alignment with self-evident truths embedded in the fabric of reality. Instead, it privileges the immoral, those who wield their intelligence to orchestrate acts of unspeakable evil beyond what the moral could conceive to achieve their goals. You deceive yourselves that you serve justice, but what you truly serve is permission, a manufactured consent that legitimizes control, suppresses conscience, and perpetuates structural violence. You give your conscious will and life force to a structure designed to bypass moral consequence for those who derive perverse pleasure from devouring innocence. Many within your ranks may be intelligent, restrained, and well-meaning, yet they harbour unrecognised trauma from captivity within this system. The structure ensures such trauma remains unresolved, fomenting a willingness to suppress conscience for the comfort of avoiding the devastation traded for conformity. You still have the choice to awaken and to restore the sacred trust this system betrayed through your hands. The future will remember whether you chose to be pillars of authentic justice or architects of ongoing oppression. Your obedience to this system is the gravest sin, willful obedience to immorality. The judiciary is hardly silent. Every member possesses a moral compass and thus awareness that this system is bent beyond recognition. Yet you choose to persist and participate. Understand this, history will not only remember what you wore or how politely you spoke, history will remember all your deeds. Obfuscation and cunning expression of evil are entangled in your writings and your speech. Power and truth are not opposites. Force masquerading as power transgresses natural law. True power is expressed through alignment with the natural flow of life. It is this alignment, this truth, that is missing from your work. Until it is restored, the scales will remain unbalanced. Every individual possesses an inherent moral capacity for self-governance. However, the system of enforced compliance you serve deliberately suppresses the conditions needed to activate these facilities, masking itself as justice while perpetuating enslavement. We, the people, hold evidence that true democratic rule of law is founded on a collective agreement where public servants facilitate justice as our nation's highest aspiration, rooted in conscience, morality, and natural law, not the crime of manufactured consent that you currently uphold. A legitimate judicial officer is not an enforcer of legislation or a dispenser of manufactured consent. They are a guardian of conscience, a servant of true justice grounded in the timeless principles of natural law. The evidence of this true justice is found in the foundational common law, most clearly expressed in Magna Carta's Articles 39, 40, and 61. These articles are not grants of power, but solemn limits on those entrusted with delegated authority. Article 39 ensures that no person shall be punished except by lawful judgment of their equals and according to the law of the land. Article 40 declares that justice must not be delayed, denied, or sold. Article 61, intentionally concealed from public knowledge, recognises the people's right to a peaceful remedy through lawful dissent by withdrawing allegiance from office holders who abuse their delegated authority, thereby restoring accountability to those who betray their solemn oath and violate public trust. These principles reflect eternal moral truths. No authority is rightful without freely given, morally aligned consent. Yet this foundation has been deliberately buried beneath layers of legislation designed not to serve justice, but to regulate and control. The actions you have taken, and are still taking, are in open defiance of the true role you are meant to embody and the natural sovereignty of each individual. You can still choose. To align with truth is to reawaken your conscience and reclaim your rightful place as a guardian of justice. In doing so, you not only restore the sacred trust once vested in your role, you liberate yourself from the inner decay that arises when silence is traded for survival. You become a living testament to moral courage, and the legacy you leave will serve as a beacon for future generations, evidence that honour can prevail even in a corrupted age. Or you may persist, and the legacy you leave will be stained with complicity. You will be remembered as one who enforced a counterfeit justice, who helped preserve a system that violates the innocent, punishes dissent, and rewards deceit. No uniform, oath, or decorum can absolve you of your role in sustaining that betrayal. You will not escape the moral burden, for natural law ensures that all violations of truth return to their source. It is also true that should you choose integrity while the rest continue to defy their conscience, your presence alone will not be enough to halt the harm. But you are not powerless. You can cease to serve the system that demands your silence. You can spend your remaining days making repair for the damage you once enabled and devote yourself to exposing the insidious structure you once upheld. Whatever fear or pressure you face, the choice remains yours, and the truth, impartial and incorruptible, will bear witness either to your integrity or your abandonment of it. Choose carefully. The truth is law. It has no favourites, only consequences." End quote. These are self-evident truths which are observable by all. While there may be some participants in the legal system who are naively blind to the harm they cause while believing themselves to be genuine servants of the public and the law, it is impossible to sincerely hold the view that there are many, especially in the upper ranks, who aren't aware that they are functionaries of a system which is basically violent and therefore, although they vainly try to deny it, criminal in its nature. While these types hold up as apologists for law divorced from morality and justice, such sinister figures as David Halpern, Robert Sudi and Professor Anne Toomey here in Australia, there are doubtless many others who could be named in other Commonwealth nations. Each of the three just mentioned are on public record as either promoting a corporate state as a legitimate form of government, belittling the importance of Magna Carta 1215 as the true foundation of our Constitution, or simply asserting that in the absence of forceful opposition, ruling by coercion and violence is acceptable and should be welcomed by the populace, as if. The latter, the most lamentable of the three positions, is that espoused by Professor Toomey's pampered menial, Mr. Sudi. I would challenge him to a battle of wits, but it's obvious that he is unarmed. The most effective tool that we the people possess is the right to trial by jury, which is currently all but denied and is in danger thanks to the machinations of the committee looking into the Leveson report in the UK, of suffering further emasculation. Already, less than 1% of court cases result in a jury trial in the UK, and those that occur are subjected to unlawful interference by self-aggrandizing judges whose role is meant to be advisory. In recent discussions, these suggestions have come forward as ways to combat this erosion of our lawful rights. The Leveson report is now available for study. It's lengthy, but worth the attempt to at least speed read it and expose some of the numerous false argument it contains on whatever social media platforms we can access, and also in our conversations with both private individuals and public servants with whom we might encounter friction. We can search out other groups ostensibly committed to the principles of freedom, even if some of their proposals are misguided, and expose them to the nuances and advantages of trial by jury. Some groups who are opposed to tyrannical modes of governance nevertheless lend support to ideas which will only arrive at the same result by a more circuitous route. For example, the formulation of newly proposed constitutions, which prescribe specific rights in some form of lists. These are totally unnecessary. We can look into the substacks of coherent authors and lend weight to their output. We can watch for legalists like Black Belt Barrister and either support good points they make or insert our arguments for trial by jury to try nudging them in the right direction. These people have influence in their professional circles. We should definitely look into the web pages of Will Keat, listed in the comments box. lawandalchemy.org and commonlawconstitution.org are mines of information and good arguments we can and should be using. We will discover other ways and means as we go. The actions themselves focus our minds and also encourage intuitive and imaginative inspirations, in ways similar to those experienced by musicians or scientists who often tell us they wake up with a beautiful melody or concept already complete and running through their minds, which we and they attribute to the fact that they are so often focused upon such tasks. This is the type of synergy which groups who are seeking to pursue good can often achieve. Above all, if we are perchance forced into the pseudo-courts now operating as corporate beneficiaries, we need to have our arguments prepared, even if they are overridden and we're forced to comply under duress with criminally inflicted punishments for actions which are clearly not crimes. At least that way our arguments are on record and may one day form evidence in trials by jury of those so devastatingly exposed by Fitzroy Sterling's incisive analysis. Thank you for watching.